California's rental market is collapsing. Desperate landlords. Hold on. Before you panic or celebrate, let me show you what's really happening. Because the truth, it's much more interesting than the sensationalism. The Californian market isn't collapsing, it's recalibrating. And if you understand what's really going on, you'll see opportunities where others only see fear. Welcome to Keynomics, where we destroy false narratives with verified numbers. All links to official sources are in the description. Subscribe now, hit the bell, and leave a like, because verified information can completely transform your financial life.
In October 2025, the median rent in California is $2,205 per month, an increase of 1.4% over the last year. Not a drop, not a collapse. A moderate increase of $31. The statewide vacancy rate is at 5.4%, exactly where economists consider it healthy and balanced. During the pandemic, it was below 3%. That was unsustainable. But let's be honest about what's happening. Yes, some cities saw real drops. Los Angeles fell 17.3%. San Jose, 11.8%. San Diego, 6.6%. Verifiable numbers from official sources like Zillow, Redfin, and the Census Bureau. But here's the context that turns panic into perspective. These drops come after increases of 35 to 40% between 2020 and 2022. When rents rise unsustainably, driven by temporary remote work and artificially cheap money, a correction isn't a tragedy. It's the market returning to sanity. Today we're going to examine the 10 Californian cities where the rental market has transformed the most. Not with sensationalist headlines, but with verifiable data, historical perspective, and an honest analysis of where real opportunities exist. Let's begin. Number 10. Santa Clarita. Just a few miles north of Los Angeles, Santa Clarita has always been the symbol of suburban perfection. Clean streets, excellent schools, and family safety. For years, it was the dream alternative to the chaos of LA. The median rent is around $2,650, with a vacancy rate of just 2.6%, one of the lowest in the region. Developers built aggressively during the pandemic in Valencia and Canyon Country, convinced the LA exodus would be permanent. Then came the return to offices. Many tenants moved back to LA or left California. For the first time in years, tenants have more negotiating power. Landlords are offering incentives, free months, no deposits, flexible leases. But Santa Clarita hasn't lost its charm. The William S. Hart School District remains excellent, and crime remains low. Between 2008 and 2011, Santa Clarita saw drops of 10 to 12% and recovered in 4 years. For buyers who waited years for an entry window, this correction might be just that. Suburban markets with solid fundamentals historically recover. Number 9. Sacramento. Sacramento once symbolized opportunity for those fleeing Bay Area prices. Between 2020 and 2022, tens of thousands of remote workers arrived, pushing rents from $1,650 to $2,150, a 40% jump in 3 years. Investors declared the city a new frontier of prosperity. In 2025, the tide has turned. The median rent in May was $1,650, a drop of $245 compared to the previous year. Developers overbuilt, expecting permanent growth. Many Bay Area transplants left, some returning to San Francisco, others to cheaper states. But Q1 2025 numbers reveal healthy demand. Properties rented in an average of 19 days for houses and 22 days for apartments, faster than the national average of 23 days. And 79% of property managers expect stable or rising prices. Sacramento has a solid economic base. State government as the largest employer. UC Davis Health, Intel. State capitals rarely collapse. Between 2008 and 2011, rents fell 12% and took 4 years to recover. Sacramento is rebalancing, not crumbling. Number 8. Long Beach. For decades, Long Beach was the quiet success story of LA County. Ocean views without the Malibu price tag. 2-bedroom rents that fetched $2,750 in 2023 are now going for $2,450, $2,500. Luxury towers are offering 2 months free, where there used to be waiting lists. During the pandemic, builders bet that coastal demand would never wane. But the return to offices changed everything. Hybrid workers are leaving. Rising costs deepen the pressure. Insurance is up 20% and utilities continue to climb. But Long Beach has solid fundamentals. The port moves 20% of U.S. containerized trade. Boeing, Molina Healthcare, and Cal State Long Beach anchor jobs. It's 40% cheaper than Santa Monica. Between 2009 and 2012, Long Beach saw drops of 8 to 11% and recovered in 3 to 4 years, driven by downtown revitalization. For investors who understand cycles, coastal markets with real infrastructure and diverse economies don't stay depressed forever. Long Beach has both. Number 7. Oakland. For decades, Oakland carried the banner as the Bay Area's working-class alternative. Diverse, vibrant, and full of opportunity. But in 2025, the city is facing real adjustments. The change is visible. Luxury towers once filled with San Francisco commuters are now half empty, their lobby lights shining on deserted lounges. Oakland's turmoil began with the 2023 tech layoffs. Thousands of workers who flooded the East Bay to escape San Francisco's cost of living suddenly left the region entirely. Hybrid work emptied offices while concerns about crime and safety accelerated the outward migration. The downtown area, once vibrant with new restaurants and nightlife, now feels subdued, a shadow of its pre-pandemic energy. Landlords are cutting rents by hundreds of dollars a month. Some offer free rent for the first quarter. Others include parking or gym access to attract tenants. But demand simply isn't keeping up. Even long-term tenants are renegotiating leases, knowing they finally have leverage after years of relentless increases. During the pandemic peak, rents hit $3,200 for 2 bedrooms in areas like Uptown and Jack London Square. In 2024, they fell to $2,600 and $2,700. But data from the second half of 2025 shows something important: stabilization and even recovery in some neighborhoods. Oakland is resilient. During the 2008-2011 crisis, rents fell 14%, but recovered in 5 years, driven by gentrification and proximity to San Francisco. The city saw a cultural renaissance in the 2010s with restaurants, breweries, and art. And the fundamentals remain: a 30-minute BART ride to SF, the Port of Oakland, as the second largest on the West Coast, and a cost 40% lower than San Francisco. Oakland is investing heavily in public safety and downtown revitalization. For long-term investors who understand that the East Bay has always been cyclical, corrections historically represent entry points before the next appreciation cycle. Number 6. Los Angeles. For decades, Los Angeles seemed immune to market corrections. Its mix of entertainment, technology, and culture kept demand infinite. Until now. In 2025, even the City of Angels is feeling the pull of gravity. Rent prices across LA County have fallen 17.3% year over year, marking the sharpest drop since the 2009 financial crisis. The median rent is $2,800, down from the $3,400 peak. And it's not just downtown. Even the once untouchable West Side, where studios fetched $3,500 a month, now sees empty listings lingering at $2,800 with incentives attached. The cause? Outward migration. Since 2020, over 200,000 residents have left Los Angeles County, lured by lower costs in Nevada, Arizona, and Texas. The pandemic's remote work boom gave people freedom, and they didn't come back. Meanwhile, developers kept building, convinced the city's allure would fill every high-rise. Instead, towers in Koreatown, Hollywood, and Culver City are half full. The oversupply has flipped the power dynamic. For the first time in over a decade, tenants have options and leverage. Apartment managers are offering free months, waived deposits, and parking discounts just to compete. Open houses that once drew crowds are now eerily quiet. But here's the essential context. Between 2020 and 2022, rents in LA climbed 35%. When you see a 17% drop from an artificial peak created by cheap money and temporary remote work, you're not seeing a collapse. You're seeing a rebalancing. And it's not just the luxury market. Mid-tier neighborhoods like North Hollywood, Echo Park, and parts of Long Beach are seeing similar slowdowns. Los Angeles isn't collapsing. It's resetting. But for landlords who dominated this market for years, it's a painful awakening. The glamour is still here. Palm trees, sunsets, and ambition. But the numbers tell a different story. In 2025, the West Coast's rental capital is finally coming back to earth. Number 5. San Diego. Few cities symbolized California's coastal paradise like San Diego, with its golden beaches, year-round sun, and reputation for infinite demand. But in 2025, the nation's 8th largest city is waking up to an uncomfortable truth. Even paradise can overheat. Rents across San Diego County have fallen 6.6% in the last year. What's more alarming is where it's happening. Once overheated neighborhoods like Pacific Beach, Little Italy, and Hillcrest are all cooling fast. Developers spent the last 5 years flooding the skyline with new luxury apartments, betting on high-income tenants from the biotech and defense sectors. But inflation, high interest rates, and shrinking household budgets have slowed demand to a crawl. Those sleek coastal towers that once filled up overnight are now offering move-in bonuses and rent credits just to stay afloat. The problem isn't just overbuilding. It's an affordability collapse. With electricity bills and home insurance costs among the highest in the state, even well-paid professionals are downsizing or moving out entirely. Inland cities like Riverside, Temecula, and Murrieta are seeing an influx of former San Diegans chasing lower rents and shorter commutes. The shift is visible everywhere. Downtown used to pulse with new residents every month. Now leasing offices are quieter, and landlords are negotiating for the first time in years. But San Diego has solid fundamentals. Biotech, naval defense, tourism, and UC San Diego still anchor the economy. After a decade of relentless price hikes, the city is recalibrating. Demand will return. But for now, landlords are learning what tenants always knew. Even in paradise, the math eventually matters. Number 4. San Francisco. No city defines the highs and lows of California's real estate history like San Francisco. Once the epicenter of innovation and wealth, the city has faced dramatic transformations in recent years. But in 2025, the narrative is changing again in ways few expected. During the pandemic, San Francisco saw a historic exodus. Remote work decimated the daily workforce, and tech layoffs removed tens of thousands of high-income tenants. Rents plummeted from $3,300 to $2,200 in some neighborhoods. Downtown, once the beating heart of the tech world, felt hollowed out. Streets that buzzed with commuters echoed with emptiness. Developers converted underused office buildings into residential units, flooding the market with supply. What was meant to solve the housing shortage ironically and temporarily deepened the vacancy crisis. Entire districts from Soma to Civic Center told the same story. Sleek glass towers with panoramic views sitting half-dark at night. Even iconic properties like Nema and 181 Fremont, once symbols of wealth and exclusivity, offered move-in incentives and rent cuts that would have been laughable 5 years ago. But here's what's happening in 2025 that changes the whole narrative. San Francisco is bouncing back. The median rent is $2,600, and the city has posted 5% year-over-year growth. The real vacancy rate is 3.52%, not the double-digit numbers that sensationalist headlines claim. The city isn't dying. It's adjusting and growing again. The rent decline wasn't just economic, it was emotional. San Francisco was built on momentum, on the belief that innovation would always outweigh risk. But in 2025, something else is happening beneath the surface. Opportunity. For the first time in years, middle-income tenants can actually afford to live in parts of the city again. Studios in Hayes Valley, once unattainable, are renting at pre-2016 prices. San Francisco's identity is changing, not dying, but evolving. The boom city hit its bottom and bounced. And from here, the story will depend on whether the city can reinvent itself once more. The fundamentals remain. Tech is still here, venture capital is still here, and the culture of innovation hasn't vanished. San Francisco has always been cyclical. 2025 may be marking not the end, but the beginning of its next chapter. Number 3. Riverside. For years, Riverside represented hope, a refuge for Californians priced out of the coast. A city where families could trade cramped apartments for space and sunshine. But in 2025, even the bastion of the Inland Empire is showing cracks. Apartment complexes that were full just 2 years ago now display now leasing signs over empty parking lots. Some developers have resorted to billboards and social media ads offering discounts unseen in the last decade. The cause? Overbuilding and broken assumptions. During the pandemic migration boom, developers rushed to meet what seemed like infinite demand from Los Angeles transplants. New complexes sprang up in Moreno Valley, East Vale, and downtown Riverside, built on the belief that remote work would make the city a permanent magnet. But population growth stalled, remote work receded, and the same workers who once fled here for cheaper rent are now leaving California entirely. Even longtime locals are stretched thin. Home insurance costs and utility bills have risen sharply, and job markets in logistics and warehousing, the region's bread and butter, have weakened. When Amazon scaled back expansion, thousands of jobs disappeared. Those ripple effects hit tenants first. The irony is stark. Riverside, once seen as the solution to coastal unaffordability, now faces its own affordability paradox. Housing that is cheaper on paper, but unattainable in reality due to stagnant wages and rising expenses. Landlords are offering creative deals, waived application fees, free parking, flexible lease terms, anything to slow the vacancy spiral. But the actual vacancy rate for Riverside San Bernardino is 3.7%, one of the lowest in California, not the 9.4% that viral videos claim. Complexes may have oversupply in specific luxury areas, but the overall market remains tighter than narratives suggest. The Inland Empire's promise of stability has turned into a lesson in fragility, but also in resilience. Riverside has the Interstate 15 and 91 connecting directly to LA and Orange County. UC Riverside is expanding, and the cost of living is still 35% below the coast. Even in a market built on resilience, when optimism outpaces reality, the foundation can crack. But cracked foundations can be repaired when the fundamentals remain solid. Number 2. San Jose. For years, San Jose remained untouchable. The jewel of Silicon Valley, the epicenter of innovation, and home to the highest rents west of Manhattan. But in 2025, even the tech capital of the world is struggling to fill apartments. The median rent has fallen 11.8% year over year. But here's the crucial context. San Jose's real vacancy rate is 3.3%, the lowest in all of California, not the 10% that headlines manufacture. The explanation reads like a blueprint of the new economy. Tech layoffs at giants like Google, Meta, and PayPal emptied thousands of high-income households. Remote work remains entrenched, freeing employees from the Bay's brutal cost of living. And younger tech professionals, once the fuel for the rental market, are moving to cheaper innovation hubs in Austin, Denver, and Salt Lake City. The consequences are everywhere. Sleek downtown towers built during the 2017 to 2021 boom are now half empty. Rooftop lounges sit unused, and co-working spaces echo with vacancy. Luxury complexes in Cupertino and Santa Clara are quietly dropping rents by $400 to $700 a month. Even the high-tech suburbs are feeling it. Once untouchable addresses in Mountain View and Sunnyvale are seeing "for rent" signs multiply, a shocking image for cities that once had 2-year waiting lists. But beneath the shock is a profound shift. San Jose's housing market was built on perpetual optimism, the belief that the tech engine would never slow down. Now that faith has faltered, investors are pulling back, developers are pausing projects, and local governments are grappling with falling tax revenue. For tenants, it's a long overdue relief. Engineers and families who once paid $4,000 for modest apartments are finally seeing relief. The power dynamic has flipped, and landlords are negotiating again. San Jose's rent recession is more than a market story, it's symbolic. It signals the end of an era when tech defined not just California's economy, but its identity. The region that built the future is now learning what it's like to come back to earth. But with a 3.3% vacancy rate and tech fundamentals still intact, San Jose isn't dying. It's recalibrating for a new normal. Number 1. Bakersfield. At the top of our list, and perhaps the most surprising of all, is Bakersfield, California's working-class bastion and longtime anchor of affordability. For decades, it was the last refuge for families priced out of the coast. But in 2025, even Bakersfield is facing adjustments that are rewriting its story. The roots trace back to the pandemic boom. Developers rushed to build thousands of new units, betting that migration from Los Angeles and Fresno would never slow. But as the economy cooled and population growth stabilized, demand evaporated. Entire complexes now sit half-empty on the city's edges, their banners offering 2 months free and no deposit. Job losses deepened the pain. Agriculture, one of Bakersfield's economic pillars, was hit by drought, automation, and global price pressures. Logistics and oil, the other key industries, also weakened, leading many tenants to pack up and leave the region entirely. The ripple effects are visible everywhere. Shopping centers are quieter, property managers are cutting fees, and neighborhoods once full of families are showing "for rent" signs on every other block. For landlords, it's a wake-up call. The myth of the safe market has vanished. Oversupply and economic fragility have collided, creating a perfect storm. Those who bought investment properties at the peak are now underwater, while local landlords struggle to stay solvent. But there is no verifiable official data confirming the 12% vacancy or 13% rent drops that viral videos claim. Bakersfield doesn't appear in major rental market reports with such extreme numbers. What is true? The city faces localized oversupply and real economic pressures from weakened industries. But the catastrophic magnitude is not supported by data. Beneath the difficulty lies something profound. Bakersfield's market is rebalancing. The excess is clearing. And for the first time in years, housing here is truly affordable again for working-class families. The shift is symbolic. If even Bakersfield, the city that was supposed to be immune, is grappling with vacancies, then California's rental market correction isn't coming. It's already here. But here's what the headlines don't tell you. Bakersfield has Interstate 5 connecting LA to San Francisco, massive agricultural infrastructure that feeds the nation, and a cost of living 50% below the major metros. Cycles happen, markets breathe, and cities built on real fundamentals, not speculation, eventually find balance again. So, what did we discover? The Californian market isn't collapsing. It's rebalancing after unsustainable growth. The statewide vacancy rate is 5.4%, balanced and healthy. San Francisco grew 5% in 2025. Oakland is stabilizing. Sacramento maintains strong demand. Riverside and San Jose have the lowest vacancy rates in the state. California is finally building. 42,000 new units in the last 12 months. When supply increases, prices adjust. The market is working. Zillow projects 2 to 3% growth in the coming years. The correction isn't a catastrophe, it's an opportunity. For tenants, there's more negotiating power. For investors, corrections are when fortunes are made. Sensationalist videos multiply numbers by 3 because panic sells. But you now know the truth. California is rebalancing, not dying. And those who understand real data will see exactly where genuine opportunities exist. If this video opened your eyes, subscribe, leave a like, and share. Every week on Keynomics, we bring you the truth behind the headlines. Because to understand the future, you need to follow real data, not manufactured fear. See you in the next video.